Hello, friends, and welcome back. Last time around, we were talking about that amazing Avenger inventor, injured, forced to create a super suit to protect himself. Now, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, and booze hound. Iron Man was our MVP last time. The question is, can he repeat again? This is Avengers versus JLA, and I got my homie Magic Lasso.
What's going on?
How's it going, man?
Good. It's so appropriate that I do a great Silver Age show with someone who loves the Silver Age of comic books as much as you do.
There's so much Silver Age going on in my life right now. I couldn't help but shame Stan Lee a little
I
bit.
watched.
It was a short. I didn't do like a whole video on it.
He won't even appear on your tree next year.
I mean, I don't know where I'm going to stash my Stan Lee toy.
Good,
Yeah.
good thing you've got months to figure that out.
Yeah, for those that missed out, yeah, I'm reading the Doctor Doom omnibus. Also, we're reading Avengers and Justice League. I'm not using my omnibus for that as well. So it's a lot of Silver Age in John's life right now, and a lot of that Marvel side is credited to Stan the Man Lee.
Absolutely.
So I definitely I have some thoughts, I have some words, and they're almost always around the female characters. But we'll get to that another time, I guess.
Yeah. By the way, with your Doctor Doom omnibus, I have the comic book that the cover of your omnibus was taken from.
Oh, do you?
I do, yeah.
Was that?
That's always been one of my favorite covers, too.
Was that one of the Book of Doom issues?
No, that was a supervillain team up.
Ah, okay. I'm almost to those. I'm doing.
Okay.
I finished the earliest issues, the FF ones, the ASM, the annual, his origin. You know, I'm through that. I'm basically to the stuff that's like the team up with Kazar is the little bit the next stage. I'm trying to get through to the 70s. That's my goal. Get out of the 60s. Get into the 70s. Disco Dazzler era.
I'm all about that Disco Dazzler.
Friends, hello. Welcome to Avengers versus Justice League. This is the show. I know you do. This is the show where Ryan and I talk about Silver Age team-up books. We're talking the original Avengers series, the original Justice League of America series, and we're going issue by issue and debating them, talking about all the fine points of these classic books. And then you in the chat are helping us decide which is the more entertaining book, which is the better book, which is the book you enjoy more, not the spec. None of the speculation and none of the John versus Ryan. It's really about these issues. And even if you've never read them, this is the opportunity to hear us talk a little bit about them, share our thoughts, feelings, and share some of the artwork. And then you to give us your feelings about how you feel like these books came out. Right now, Justice League definitely in the lead in this so far. I want to say, isn't it 5-2 or 4-3? They're way up.
Yeah, I think it's 4-3.
Yeah.
So, I think it is.
So they're holding a strong lead, and they've had the lead most of the way through. I've been very happy about the quality of those books that we've been getting from that Justice League side for sure. But let's jump into the Earth's mightiest chatters here and talk a little bit about some of the. I got it right for the first time. I think it's the first time I've gotten it right.
You did it.
Earth's mightiest chatters kicked off with, of course, Rob freaking Boswell. This is the sole member of my new Comic Book Day Coalition. He is a phenomenal channel member. I appreciate Rob in a big way. Member since the OG from the beginning, and he's been helping me choose books each month that I share and read. So he's got to tell me what I'm reading for January because it's almost up, Rob. So hit me up, my brother. And we got Cookie from Just a Little Podcast, and right off the bat, these two are saying JLA, no question, they're in. Doesn't matter. We got Kang. Kang is not important on the Avengers side. They're all in.
And Cookie's been making some content. He's been back putting out some weekly videos too.
He's
on
back,
his channel,
yeah.
So it's nice to have some new content back out.
He's a great community member, and it's exciting to see him doing content again for sure. We got Comic Cap Collectibles in the chat. What's going on? He seems to be a Cap fan, but will he be an Avengers fan tonight by the end? Let's find out, right? We got Las Cruces from New Mexico. Hello to you. Hopefully it's nice and warm there because it is not there.
Correct.
Ruben Guzman saying White Tigers should go in JLA versus Avengers equals X-Men. I don't know how that works, but okay. X-Men win. He's picking X-Men. It's not an option. It's not a multiple choice. Scotty Vaughn's in the chat. What's going
Yeah.
on? Good to see you, sir. And we have returning from a really long time away, my friend Jeffrey Comic-Con. Comic-Con, it's good to see you. He says, read Brubaker Books of Doom last night. He read it last night. And I've got those in the omnibus, but they're the very end of that Doctor Doom omnibus. So that is the part I'm saving for last. So eventually I'll get there, but not yet. Not yet. Rob Boswell, you're definitely not behind. I'm excited. You've been picking really great stuff, and I've been really enjoying going back and reading stuff that I missed. So thank you for helping me guide that. And Sticky Buns at Dollywood is in the chat. What's going on, Magic Class? This is a great reminder that Ryan's channel link is linked down below, and we jump back to his channel when we get to issues 9 from these respective runs. So you don't want to miss out as we can continue this discussion around these Silver Age books. So make sure you're subscribed over there, because every month we try to get together and hang out and talk a little Silver Age team comic. So this is the fun of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. Tonight it's issue number 8. Do you have any memories of picking up your issue number 8? I think you and I had a similar story, but you can go ahead and go first.
I got mine in a lot that I purchased, a set that I purchased from a friend. It had a whole variety of books. In fact, it was supposed to include an Avengers 4 signed by Stan Lee, but Stan passed just before we could come up with a fair deal. And he was like, you know what? I got to sell this book for what it's going for right now. It's a hot book. So he sold that, and then he gave me a free Man Called Nova #1, that first appearance of Nova, as like I'm sorry. And then we made a deal for the rest of the books. I got several Avengers issues, but this was the biggest one I got in the lot. It's definitely low grade. It's got a lot of chipping on the spine, some pieces coming off, but it holds together well. And we opened it up, I think, when we were doing our look through this run at the beginning of this series.
Yeah, our preview episode.
Yeah. How about you? Let's hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so mine is kind of a rerun of what I said last month, because I bought issue 7 and 8 together at a comic show that was in a mall in Madison, Wisconsin. And this wasn't last Easter, it was the Easter before.
Okay.
So I went there not having anything specific in mind to pick up. And sometimes I think that's the best time, because, you don't look for anything specific and you just let the books find you.
Sure.
And at that show, I ended up getting an issue 7 and an issue 8, which was
nice.
Huge. And at that time, I wasn't even thinking that I could really maybe realistically complete a run of JLA. I am in a 3-year process of completing JLAs, and it's very achievable. I've already got one of the 3 years done, and on my channel next week, I'll give an update on, actually kind of a big update on a big step forward on my JLA collecting. So that will be next Tuesday.
You're getting very near to caught up. I've been excited.
I'm going to reveal the number next week.
Where you mean the number of issues left?
Yes, I'll reveal it next week. So
very exciting, because I know you had a long-term goal.
It was going to
wrap in a couple more years.
Yeah, so the 3-year goal was going to be 1 a month, because I needed 36. A year ago at this time, I needed 36 issues. And so I was going to do 12 a year, essentially 1 a month. I didn't have to buy 1 a month. I could buy 3 at once and not buy any for a couple months,
Right. It was designed with some flexibility, and I think you felt it was a very realistic, attainable goal at that time.
But last year,
I know you jumped. Yeah, you jumped way ahead of that.
I blew past it. And then there were some from last year that were in Canada, and with their postal strike, I didn't get them in time to include them in a 2024 video, but now I'm able to include them in a video. So that's what's coming next week.
Exciting. Yeah, I'm excited for that update. Is that going to be your mail call or pickups?
Yeah, the comic book editions video next week.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's jump right into covers since you're holding yours up. Let's look at that JLA cover. I'm going to put you on the slightly larger screen so we can take a look at that. Cover number 8 from this run. What are your thoughts on this issue 8 cover?
I like a yellow cover. Anyway, I think that's fun. It doesn't need a lot of background to get its point across. You have a lot of characters, and they each kind of get presented very well on the cover. And that's a tough thing to do. Granted, it's tougher in an action shot, I think, than this, but this really conveys the plot of the story. I see this and I go, well, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm more intrigued on who sold for the most money out of all of them, which they don't really tell us.
They don't.
But this happens in the story. So
Yes.
I like this cover a lot. If this was like a poster, I'd definitely be interested in it.
And I totally agree. This is probably among the 8 that we've done so far. This is easily top 2 for me.
Yeah.
This is I love to your point. The lighter colored background helps the heroes pop. They're all
Mhm.
there. They're all in that lineup. You don't need your Superman, your Batman. This is
Yeah.
not that point of this comic. The colors work really well. The details work really well. And to your point, it's exactly what the story is.
Mhm.
It highlights what's going on, and it intrigues me, the reader, to be like, he's auctioning off the JLA and they're just taking it. Like, what does
Yeah.
this mean?
Yeah.
And so intriguing. This is one of those that we talk about on the X-Men where I'm like, I would buy that. I would pick that up
Mhm.
because I'm intrigued with that cover. So yeah, totally agree. What is up?
Yeah.
Kenneth Bird is
Hey,
in the
Kenneth.
chat. Welcome to the Earth's mightiest chat. So yeah, I totally agree. Everything you're saying. And the title pops really well. The dress,
sure
the
does.
trade
The
dress
logo,
pops
yeah.
really nice. Not over wordy, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
All right, so should we switch over then?
Let's switch.
Let's talk about another yellowish cover, because
Mhm.
this definitely is a lighter colored cover, but obviously it's got our Stan Lee conversation pieces scattered all around. To your point, this is more of an action cover. Obviously, we got the team on one side and this new unheard of quote unquote villain at the time with this strange set of tennis balls protecting him. What were your thoughts on this one?
Way too wordy. Way too wordy from the beginning. There's too many letters on that cover, too much. And I did, to its credit and its defense, I did say an action cover is harder to draw to get good shots, but I don't think anyone got a great shot. Even the villain doesn't have a great shot because you can't see his face.
He's back. He's facing away from us, which is a strange choice for sure.
So I'm not really big on this cover. It's not one of my favorites. It feels too crowded to me.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the focal point seems to be the weird yellow balls. Like that seems to be what draws your eye, and you're like, okay, what's with the weird yellow balls? I do love a good first appearance villain cover where they are on the cover and in prominence and their name and all that stuff. I will give it points for all of that. The heroes are very hard to see. They're very tiny off to the side there for me. I do like the action of it, seeing the hammer fly off, seeing the shield being hurled, seeing the heroes dealing with this. I don't know what Iron Man's doing. It looks like he's breakdancing a little bit there.
It kind of does.
But the energy is right, but I think I guess I'd say the perspective is a little off for me. And if they had gotten rid of some of the word bubbles and just had the big one, here cometh Kang the Conqueror, those kind of Stan Lee things, I think it would have gotten a lot more mileage from me. So for me, I guess it's a clear discussion. I think both of us seem to feel pretty strongly that the better cover is the JLA. But those of you in the chat, the handful of you in the chat, let us know which cover you think is better of these two issue 8 sort of yellow covers. Do you have a preference for one of these over the other? Which one would you pick up off the shelf? That's always my
same
barometer.
Same with me.
If I saw it and I'm not paying, $700, if I saw it, would I just buy that as like ooh, that sounds interesting kind of a book,
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think
we're
in agreement that it's JLA tonight.
That's an awesome way to start. In agreement. All right. So then we're doing story next. Let me get that ready. And I'm going to go first. So should I make you big so you can see the art better? Is that a way to do it?
Yeah, that's fine.
A little bit. I'll slide you over a little bit. I'm going to be retelling the JLA story this week. So let me grab my omnibus.
Yeah, give me a chance to get caught up too.
Get it all
I gotta
set
get my
here.
little assist there.
So this is JLA issue number 8, and it starts like most of these issues do. You get the splash page explain kind of setup of what this is going to be. They give you the roll call, and they tell you just kind of what's going on. This issue is called For Sale, the Justice League. And you have all the heroes rushing forward, looking to meet us. It says, it looks like a Green Lantern is saying, here we go on our most difficult assignment. And Arrow says, not to solve crimes, but to commit them, which definitely leaves us wondering what in the world is going on. So yeah, we jump into this issue. We're right in it seems to me, the streets of Gotham, but they call this the town of Valdale. And we've got a criminal who looks like he's straight out of Dick Tracy running down an alley, and he's being chased by the police. He falls down next to this weird ray gun that fell from the sky, and the ray gun blasts this orange light onto these cops, and they become incredibly susceptible to his suggestion. They're frozen in time, and he thinks, although I guess it's supposed to be said out loud, scram, and they just run away. And he's like, wait a second. He first says, stop, don't shoot, and they freeze. And then he says, scram. And he's trying to figure out what is going on. Did this gun do it? He is a petty criminal. So, of course, he instantly, like in a Twilight Zone episode, starts playing around with this toy. What can I do with this? He blasts the guy and says, give me your wallet and your watch. The guy gives it to him. And he decides, okay, this is a powerful tool. I need to really think it through. So he basically calls together, I don't know how he does it, all the local mobsters. And he's like, guys, look, I know you're having issues with the Justice League. I got a way around this. I can use this ray. And he doesn't tell them I've got a ray gun. He says, I will make it so that they'll do whatever I say, and we will stop the Justice League from being a problem. So first he goes to an event where Green Lantern's going to be there, and he hits him with the orange light. And he tells him to, hey, fly me over to where these gangsters are meeting so I can convince them of my plan. They try shooting at him. He's like, nope, I'm good. Like, look, I got a Green Lantern to protect me. And I've proven now I can control these guys. And they're like, well, what more can you do? So he decides I'm going to use this on all of them. He asks Green Lantern to summon the other Justice League members. He uses his belt to do that. And when they start showing up, he just keeps blasting each one of them with this orange light from this gun and telling them to freeze and line up because you are now under my spell. And he turns to the mobsters and he says, look, here are the Justice League, completely helpless and in my power. And they start saying, well, we should just kill these guys. Let's just shoot them all. Let's get rid of them once and for all. And he's like, no. And what's the name of this guy? I can't forget. A small time gangster named Pete Ricketts. Yeah. Little Pete Ricketts. And he says, no, don't kill them. What if you buy them and they'll do whatever you want? We hold an auction. You buy your Justice League member. You take them home and they'll do whatever tasks you want. So they start thinking this through and they're like, wow, this is a great idea. So they're like, but can you do it? Will it actually work? And he sends Flash to go steal this, what they call the Cope Nugget, this valuable golden nugget. He zips away and he comes right back with it. And they're like, wow, this really works. Let's start buying these guys. And they instantly buy these. When they buy the Justice League, they start pairing them up. Hey, your person versus my person to steal this thing. Your person versus my person to steal this thing. And they have these fun little competitions. These are not real, like, let's murder people gangsters. These are like, hey, let's play a little game with these Justice League members. So they send them off on some very bizarre things, going sort of head to head. Who's going to win in these competitions? Meanwhile, we got Snapper Carr, and he's got an emergency signal, and he was supposed to go to the headquarters. And when he got there, everybody was gone, and he can't figure out what's going on. He also happened to get a letter in the mail. Yeah, Snapper. He got a letter in the mail from a scientist who said, oh, you will not believe what happened, Justice League. I need your help. I was inventing this incredible Cyberna ray. Sure. And in the midst of this incredible creation, it fell out the window and a criminal got it. And he ran off with it. Oh, Justice League, you've got to help me. And this makes Snapper think, the JLA didn't show up and this ray is missing. I wonder if this is connected. I've got an idea, because he's looking through all the Justice League memorabilia from all their other heists and other crimes that they've solved. And he's come up with a solution involving maybe utilizing some of what he finds there. Then we jump over to Flash and Green Lantern, and they're both rushing to Circle City. And they're there to get the Napoleonic jewels. And they get there and they're battling one another, and Flash is spinning his arms and Green Lantern's making green chains, and they're arguing back and forth, and the turnaround, the jewels are gone. Dun, dun, dun. Somebody already took the jewels. Then we cut over to Aquaman. He's always riding that dolphin through the ocean. And he is going to race over and get the, what is it? The gambling ship. They are robbing the ship. And there's a giant safe. And he's getting there just in time to see the Green Arrow flying his jet overhead and shooting a suction cup arrow down to get this safe. So they start battling over who's going to get the safe. And in the battle, the safe all of a sudden gets hit by a rocket that Green Arrow thought he controlled, but he didn't because it flies off without them being able to control where it goes. So both Green Arrow and Aquaman, who's riding on a sea creature, are left befuddled. Sorry. Then we jump to Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter, and they're rushing to this lead container full of pure radium that they're going to collect. Because who doesn't want more radium in their life? What's going on? No Good Comics.
Hey, Justin.
Good to see you, Justin. So they're battling over it, just like all the others. Who's going to get the radium first? Oh, I'm going to roll up a burrito Wonder Woman. Oh, I'm going to set fire to the ground and scare Martian Manhunter. Ooh, you got to have fire. And in the end, they rush over to get the radium, but it is sort of knocked out of their hands with the battle that they're having, and they turn around and it's gone. So all of the Justice League now goes back to poor Pete Ricketts and all the gangsters, and none of them have succeeded. Nobody has gotten a hold of what they were supposed to get. Everyone is a failure now. And Pete Ricketts looks a bit like a fool, and they're all just kind of stunned, and they decide, you know what, let's just go back to plan A. Let's just kill them all. And not just put a bullet in some of them that are human and would die from that, but no, I've got elaborate death machines, and we're going to launch some people in rockets. We're going to burn them on a pyre. We're going to tie some people to all sorts of things and shoot things at them and drown people, and it's just elaborate. So they put all of our heroes into some really wild contraptions, and they slowly start killing them, but not quite. And amidst all of this, Aquaman suddenly gets hit with the orange light that we saw earlier. It's like somebody is rescuing him, and he uses his now freed powers to bring flying fish and a giant net of water over to where they're trying to burn Martian Manhunter, and pours the water on him to free him. And now Martian Manhunter can use his powers to free Aquaman, and together they start freeing all the JLA members. Wonder Woman is free. Green Arrow is free. Flash is now free, and all the criminals give up. They're like, whoa, we didn't sign up for this. This is Pete Ricketts' idea. I didn't do any of this. But who is the mystery person behind it all? All of a sudden, there's Snapper Carr. Sorry if you're hearing the kitty cat. She's having her little breathing problem. I'm sorry, sweet girl. So now the superheroes are like, what happened? How did Snapper Carr save us all? And how did he get the ray gun? What is going on? And he says, well, let me tell you a story once we get all these guys in jail. And he recounts the fact that he used some of the super tools that they had in their arsenal to allow himself to fly and run fast and do all these crazy things. And he's been one step ahead of them all the way along. He followed Flash and Green Lantern to stop them and take their item. And then he heard them talk about the other items, and he started following the trail of breadcrumbs one to the next. And at the end, he basically set them all free with the ray gun that the scientist gave him and saved the day. Dun, dun, dun. So there you go.
Yeah. So the heroes couldn't, Superman and Batman aren't in this story. And,
no, they're not even. Yeah, there's not even. They're off in Dimension X, right?
Yeah. So the heroes can't hit because they've been hypnotized and controlled. They can't hit their emergency signals to call Superman and Batman.
No.
But something else that happens in the story is they figured out, well, I can't hit my emergency signal, but you could hit my emergency signal, and yes, I could hit your signal. So that's their little loophole to get around. Yeah, even though Superman and Batman never show up in the story.
Right. Yeah, that's how Snapper finds Flash and Green Lantern, and then goes on from there. What is Bredazzle's in the chat? Hello, Bredazzle. Much appreciated. Hope things are going well in your neck of the woods. You're not late, Cookie. You're right on time. All is going well. We just finished the story for JLA issue 8 and got some information a little bit about what went down as the heroes were sold for auction and then had to free each other thanks to the skills, talent, and creativity of Snapper Car.
That's right.
Are we ready to jump to Avengers 8?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. We'll swap around and I'll go big. And I've got Avengers 8 ready on the old iPad here.
Okay. So our first page starts out with the Avengers heading into their headquarters, and there's a lot of people that have gathered around. Right now, they have been called by the Pentagon, who's requested a red alert meeting, and they don't exactly know what it's about. So as they talk in the way, and maybe we should have a permanent chairperson instead of just rotating turns. I'm like, well, that's something to think about. But this time it's your turn, Captain America. So they go into their conference room. They get connected to closed circuit communication with the Pentagon to find out exactly what is going on. So the Pentagon gets a hold of them, and to get down to business, they show them some video that was just shot very recently. As of 2:00 that day, a strange UFO was sighted over a lonely, wooded area in Virginia. And all of a sudden, from this UFO, they shoot out this beam that turns the wooded area into a glass-smooth mile-square landing strip, and the UFO lands. So the army starts to move in pretty fast, and for a long time, nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, you start to see the tanks and the machines that the military had brought. They start shaking, and not only are they shaking, they're shaking themselves to pieces. And there's nothing we can do. It's useless. We can't do anything to stop the effects that ship has or that ray. So now a door starts to appear and to open, and Kang walks out. He appears to be unarmed. I mean, he has no visible weapon. And he says, I'm not going to communicate with underlings. Send me your rulers of your primitive world so that I can tell them my demands. And that's why they got a hold of the Avengers. So the public witnesses the Avengers flying off, and they're like, they must be going someplace, important in that big of a hurry. And when they find Kang, he's just kind of casually sitting around and introduces himself as Kang the Conqueror. And
casual conqueror, yeah.
Yes, and Thor says his confidence is disturbing. He seems to have no fear of our power, while Wasp says, I'll bet he's not bad looking under that silly headgear he's wearing. So Iron Man is questioning him and what his intentions are, and he says, well, my intentions are conquest. And I will demonstrate you the power against Kang, and I will render you helplessness. And he presses a button on his uniform, and it's like they said, it feels like they're lifted by huge invisible hands. And then Thor throws his hammer, but before it can even hit his face, it disappears and it reappears right in front of Thor's face. And this anti-gravity field that they're trying to break free of, finally Iron Man uses his repulsors and can bust them free, and they kind of come crashing down. The military sees what is happening, and they're freaking out. They're like, oh my God, he is kind of wiping the floor with the Avengers. And the Secretary of Defense Department shows up. And
with a great mustache.
Yes, and he wants to know, Kang, just state your business, explain your hostile acts. And Kang says, I don't really owe you anything, but I'll tell you a little bit of what's going on. I come from the far future, and I was born in the year 3000, where I mastered time travel. I journeyed to your far past, calling myself Pharaoh Rama Tut, which happened in Fantastic Four issue 19. Yep. And then I came to this century where I met Dr. Doom, which happened in Fantastic Four Annual number 2. And they kind of recap a little bit of those stories, how he's trying to get back to the year 3000. And during his time travel back, there's this electrostatic disturbance, which his vehicle suffered a temporary mechanical failure, and it sent him into the year of 4000. And in the year 4000, the world is barbaric, savage, men constantly at war, fighting with weapons so scientifically advanced that they themselves cannot even understand their compositions, for they were manufactured centuries earlier by more intelligent people. So he realizes how great these weapons are, and he amasses his plan to essentially get these weapons and then go back in time and rule with these weapons.
Yep.
So that's his backstory. And he says, I possess all this greatest scientific knowledge of time, armed with these weapons. You have no defense. So I proclaim myself Kang, the first ruler of the 20th century. And Giant Man goes to attack him, grabs a hold of him. And as Kang says, you're going to regret that. And he starts activating the circuits by flexing his muscles within his suit. And then all of a sudden, there's this raw power generated from the protective garb that he's wearing. And it knocks the Avengers back down. And Thor has had enough, and he slams his hammer to the ground, causing a ricocheting effect. He turns around and starts to swing the hammer again at Kang. And he says, you can't be recharged enough to throw that back at me. And he says, you're right. I'm not as repowered, but I can just, put this antimatter screen in front of me that nothing of this world can hit me. And he's like, well, my enchanted mallet is nothing of this earth. And he's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. In the meantime, he doesn't see that the Wasp has flown up close by, and she's trying to look to find a place to deactivate the main power source on his helmet, but she gets caught. And for a second, his defenses go down, and the Avengers start to run in, and they're saving the Wasp, and he slips a little bit on the ice, and the Avengers are really starting to attack. When all of a sudden, they are grabbed in almost like a tractor beam type thing by his attractor ray that's coming from his ship. And they're sent into these little different pods. When Thor goes through, they show that he's revealed, he's turned back into his mortal identity as Dr. Donald Blake. And they're under these paralysis beams. So he can't even move enough to change back to Thor. Giant Man is in regular size. Everyone under these beams. For Iron Man, it's affecting his heart, and it's making it harder and harder for him to breathe. So Captain America is wondering that only Wasp and Rick Jones are free. How would they be able to stop Kang? The Secretary of Defense, meanwhile, in the military, essentially says, Kang tells him, go, and I'm giving you an ultimatum to the rulers of this earth, 24 hours to, anoint me as the ruler, or I'll destroy them without hesitation. And he says, but you're mad. You're only one man with one ship. He says, but I got all the weapons of the future, and my ship alone could take out the moon. So they're a little freaked out, and the military starts to leave. Wasp and Rick Jones are like, we got to come up with some type of plan. She's going to go back to the Avengers mansion and see if she can find some type of tech that might be able to stop them. And Rick Jones is going to take care of things by contacting his teen brigade. In the meantime, the world is learning all about Kang, and there's newspaper articles, and the countries are voting on what they should do, and they decide to put their differences aside and all unite to stop Kang. So the military, who have been ordered, to keep an eye on him in this 24-hour period, they don't notice that the teen brigade has snuck up behind to get as close as they can, and finally, very brazenly, they just kind of make their way up to Kang. Here's a bunch of teenage boys.
They rush him.
Yes. And Kang is like, what do you want? And they say to him, we realize Earth hasn't a chance against you. We want to be on your side. And they're like, oh, he seems to be buying it. And Kang is like, wonderful. You shall be my first personal Earth servants. And he, with the antimatter beam, attracts them into the ship. Well, their plan is to try to find the Avengers that went into that ship. In the meantime, Kang wants them to bring something down from the ship and gives them directions of where to find it. And they kind of drop it. And Kang is upset because it is an energizer tank. The pure energy force is leaking out, and he knows they have to stop it. This is all good news for the others that are inside because that gives them more time to try to find the captured Avengers. And they see some buttons, and they just have a feeling if they push these flashing buttons and change them, that would do something. It does. It frees the paralysis inside these tubes where each of the Avengers is caught at. So Donald Blake is able to change back into Thor. He's able to escape. The rest of the Avengers get out. Iron Man is not doing well. He's still having trouble breathing because of his heart issues. He tells them, just go on and do what you must do. In the meantime, back at Avengers headquarters, Wasp found something that Hank Pym had made. It's a type of ray blaster, and she needs some help getting it back in her small size. She can't lift that, so she uses some of Ant-Man's flying ants to help her get this back, and she heads on back. In the meantime, Kang is trying to make sure that this gas in this tube doesn't get opened, and he all of a sudden realizes the Avengers are swarming him. And they're holding their ground pretty good at first. And, he monologues a little bit about how their power does not impress him.
Always monologuing.
Yes. And even Thor says, by Asgard, if he truly can resist my hammer, what power on earth exists to defeat him? So Wasp gets back with this ray blaster gun that Hank had made, and she gives that to him. And he tells Thor, hey, essentially, keep hammering away, even if you can just get a slight little piece of this thing that's protecting him open, I can shoot in there. And he's like, just keep at it. So he does, and a piece opens up momentarily enough for Hank to shoot that gun in there. And inside the capsule is the one thing they say that could defeat him. It was a special acid-based solvent, which will rot and decay any fabric, any wiring or insulation. They figured that most of Kang's powers came from his suit, so if they could kind of destroy the suit, that might, give them an advantage, and they were right on that. But Kang is not done. He has a destructive missile that's harmless to him but fatal to everyone else that he's just released. Iron Man is kind of back in business after taking a quick breather, uses his repulsor ray, and is able to explode it where it's not going to do any damage for anyone. And Kang realizes that all his missiles have been destroyed, and they kind of gather around him, got him encased, and they're still like, ooh, what tricks does he have in mind? And they say, hey, his mask is starting to glow. And he says, hey, I've got my greatest weapon, radioactivity. It's the one power, the one force you have no defense against. It's the method which I will destroy you. So Cap is trying to shield everyone the best he can, but Thor takes the power of that and absorbs it in his hammer and turns it around and blasts it right back at him. Kang, realizing that he's in deep doo-doo at this point, his survival is all that matters, so he flees back into his ship. The ship takes off and literally just vanishes. And they wonder if he'll ever return. And Cap says, well, if he does, he knows the Avengers will be sitting here waiting for him. And that's the end of our story.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
Yes. So guys in the chat, John and I are going to make some comments about each story. But now that you've heard both stories, who had the better story? Start voting while we make some comments about both stories that we read. Why don't we start with the Avengers one, since we just did
hello, Nick, the comic nerd. Thank you for coming by, Nick. Good to see you. Sorry, what was it you were saying?
I was saying, why don't we start with the Avengers one?
Yeah, we just finished that one. We can start with that one. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities. I think it's kind of funny the way that the Team Brigade and Snapper Carr both kind of came to the rescue in this issue.
Yeah.
An interesting way where in both cases the team was kind of held in stasis and trapped by a special ray. There was a lot of future science and technology in both stories. I was curious and interested in the way in which they connect Kang to Rama-Tut and some of the other FF villains. And I know there's still some controversy as to what is Kang's first appearance, in that technically those FF issues are retconned or what have you into an overall origin, and that this issue is more of an origin story than, say, a first appearance. So that's interesting, I think, to note for some fans that are collecting. I think that Kang is very well thought out in this issue. I think he, as a villain, he comes off better than I think a lot of the villains we've had in the past. I feel like they give him some interesting backstory. He does seem like a worthy foe of the Avengers, and I'm entertained by the ways in which he flummoxes them in a lot of ways. I thought that was very entertaining. There were some twists I wasn't expecting. Key among them is that the Wasp actually has something useful to do a few different times in one issue.
But needless to say, they still got the comment in there, which I made sure to point out during the review. Yes. I'll bet he's not bad looking under that silly headgear he's wearing.
Great comment. We got Rod the Rican in the chat. What's going on, Hot Rod? Good to see you, my friend. So those are my thoughts on the story. I do think it is not amazing. It's typical first appearance villain stuff where I feel like later writers might get the character better and the drama might be better executed, but entertaining, and certainly lots of great Kirby crackle action, and I think he does a good job with Thor, who has a lot to do in this issue as well.
Yeah, true. One thing I didn't understand is why Kang wanted that Energizer tank so badly, and if it was so fragile, why he would send someone else to get it, or what he was planning on doing with that Energizer tank. That was a little weird for me, and the part where all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to unleash this missile, and then like 3 panels later, that threat's taken care of. That seemed just like a touch filler for me. Like
Right.
they needed to throw a little more action in, but they didn't know what to do. But overall, you're right. I did like this issue. Overall, I definitely liked the story better than I liked the cover.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk Justice League of America. What are your thoughts on that one?
This story I really liked, and a lot of Silver Age, you know, you have to take with a little tongue in cheek, and what are you going to get here? Overall, I thought the story was really decent for a Silver Age story. It was something a little bit different, you know, putting the Justice League for sale. I thought it would have been a little bit more interesting if they could have not used the Snapper car as the savior in the story, and found something else, or seen which hero, because you never really got any resolution. Like I said, you never got a resolution on how much each one auctioned off for, who was the top seller, and you never got a resolution of between this character and this character who would have been able to pull the job off. I guess it's because you don't want to alienate fans of one character. And I get that.
Right.
And I do like that, you know, Snapper was able to use the stuff because of the Green Lantern suit that was worn in issue number 5 by Dr. Destiny, and those flying discs. That's how he was able to fly and everything. And I like that throwback to that. Usually Marvel's much better about tying things in together and doing throwbacks. But DC did a good job on that, even though their issue was published a few years earlier.
Sure. No, I agree with all the stuff you're saying. And I like the callback to issue 5. I like the way they executed Snapper's successful save the day. I do agree that having him save the day does seem to negate the need of the Justice League, and they do seem to be underutilized in that way. And then, of course, all of their showdowns are very evenly paired, so you're not getting a lot of who would win. But it is exciting seeing them go head to head, and I can understand that classic comic trope of having heroes go head to head and the fun of that. So I can appreciate that. The Aquaman stuff is so outlandish. The flying fish carrying a net thing, I laughed out loud. It was hilarious to me. But maybe that's the point. That should be the Silver Age comedy of it all. So that part definitely gave me the giggles. To your point, I think this story was fun. It was it was a fun Silver Age book, and it had a great beginning, middle, and end. It all tied together well. Pete Rickles was a hilarious character, and I almost had a complaint at the beginning where I'm like, so this big ray gun that's going to capture the whole team and defeat the Justice League, you're not even going to tell us where it came from? He just found it in an alley? And but then they snookered me, and it was all of a sudden like they revealed it with Snapper Carr. That was a wonderful, it made me feel good as a reader that they respected me enough to give me that information, and they did it late in the story.
Did you see the coloring mistake?
The fact that it came in a letter makes me question how much time passed here. Because if it's my mail, those guys could have pulled off 10 to 20 robberies by the time Snapper finds the letter and traces it back and meets the scientist and then finds where they are. And so that was hilarious to me, though. Sorry, did I miss something?
No, I was just going to ask, did you see the coloring mistake in the issue?
The coloring mistake, was it a hair thing?
No. So, we were talking how they can't hit their emergency button, but they can hit the other person's emergency button.
Okay.
So Wonder Woman hits John Martian Manhunter's emergency button. And when he goes to hit her button, which is in her tiara, that should be a green hand.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Oh, yeah, you're right. No, I did not pick that up.
Yeah.
Good catch. Rob Oswald says, I think Rocket could kick Aquaman's butt. I mean,
probably.
Nick, don't worry about missing the JLA read. You can be biased. It's fine. Let us know if you have a favorite of these two stories and how you feel about it. Bobby Ghetto's in the chat. Bobby. What's going on? Sniper Car. Yes, Sniper. He's a soldier. He's got skills with weapons. Sorry, the
So
cat's gonna knock over my light.
what are you going to vote for? Which one did you like better?
I'm voting JLA on this one. I thought it was just the superior story. It was the more entertaining story. The through line worked a little better for me. So in the end, it was close-ish, but it was clear to me that the JLA story was more entertaining as a Silver Age reader.
Yeah, these for me, the difference between reading the two of them, the Avengers one, which I'm picking the JLA, just FYI, but the Avengers one was like you had to really stay focused, and it just seemed to throw a lot of stuff at you, which a lot of Silver Age books do. And I get, when you're a kid back then, that probably was so exciting. Either one of these stories was probably so exciting, you know?
Sure.
But the JLA one was a more smoother ride for me.
Totally. I agree.
And so that's why I'm going to pick that.
Nick says he's going with Avengers. I do have to say, though, that Kang just disappearing into thin air was a little anticlimactic. And yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, that's a great point. I appreciate that completely. I just, everything you said, spot on. And those of you in the chat, let us know your thoughts. We're going to dive into interior artwork now. Let me load that banner. And which book did you want to start with? Either
one is fine with me.
I want to talk about some Kirby artwork, if you don't mind. So let's get in here. I thought that Kirby did some great work in this issue, and this was really wonderful stuff. I love the spray blast on Kang. This was one of my favorite. The color work was strong here. The energy of it all was very entertaining. Kang. The look of his costume, the look of his suit, I thought was really fascinating. They did a really great job with that. There was a lot of just dynamic energy. It was a lot of the typical, 6-panel grids, but I thought he made it work really well. I was never confused as to the action, as to what was happening. It flowed really nicely for me. And the detail work, and Iron Man's costume, especially all through it, really was fascinating. I thought he did a great job with that, and I was just really impressed. This is a much better outing. I know I've been hard on Kirby a few different times in this series so far, but I really enjoyed it. How about you?
The artwork's decent, with the exception of very lazy on the backgrounds, which is a complaint that we've had.
Absolutely.
Throughout this entire show with the Avengers. Just, you pull up a page like this. Excuse me. Oh, I'm at the next page. You pull up a page like that. There's almost no backgrounds.
Solid
in any
color.
In any of those panels, and that continues throughout the entire book. So
totally.
And where with the JLA, you don't get that.
I will say he had more detail in like fore and middle ground than he's had in the past. That for me, that made up for it. Like those panels you just showed, there's a ton of detail work going on there in the ships and the guns and the platforms and the monsters. And I thought that was really strong. The detail work, there was so much of it that, like here's an example. That all those army vehicles and all those soldiers, having a simple white background is fine for me when I feel like there's so much that it's almost like having a detailed background, I would lose sight of things. It would be too much.
But he can pull it off when you look at a panel like that.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a ton of detail in that forest, or I was going to show this outer space piece.
Yeah.
Because this was probably my favorite panel. I was not expecting it, with the floating head Kang and all the details of the outer space and everything. I thought that was really it gave me Starlin kind of vibes. Obviously Kirby did it first, we know. Was there a favorite panel that you wanted to share, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So mine actually came as the very last panel. I liked this the best.
The lineup. Yeah,
I like the lineup, and I don't always typically pick something like that. But I did like that. For whatever reason, I thought that looks really cool.
Yeah.
I like how they're kind of like...
And I lost track. Is Wasp in there somewhere for that lineup?
She is. She's on his shoulder.
Yeah, on his shoulder. There it is.
Yep.
I love it.
But you even got the Teen Brigade in the background.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're feeling like, why are they celebrating and taking the picture without us? This is kind of weird.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, it goes without saying that I loved the lounging Kangs.
That is pretty good.
So phenomenal. Okay, let's jump over to the JLA issue and talk a little bit about some of the art in there. What were your thoughts and feelings on how they executed this story?
very well with the art. The art definitely complements the good writing on the story. I don't know. There's nothing different that I haven't really said about these JLA books in the past. The art is consistent, and I'm happy with it overall.
Sure.
I'm just happy with it.
There's some comments in the chat I wanted to mention here. Bobby's going with the Avengers. I think on story he was talking about that. Let's see. Nick says, I really do like Wasp truly slipping through a crack to try to get the win. Very entertaining. Nick says, I don't know why. I feel like the blue purple green suit of Kang was bold back then. I'm impressed that it worked so well and how the contrast works. Comic Padres in the chat. What's going on? He says, for the story, I would say JLA. And we were in agreement with you on that, sir. Nick says, I like the Cap in red, white, and blue, Iron Man in red and yellow, Wasp in black and red, all basic colors. But then there's Kang, and his colors pop in a different way.
That's a good point.
Really, really good. He says on that final page, the lineup, he liked that as well. Where did he go?
Yeah.
And yes, totally agreed with there it is. That's a great point. Yeah, I think to your point, the dynamic artwork in this JLA book stays consistent. It fits the story. I was never lost or confused, except when they intentionally wanted me to be lost.
Yep.
Where did that ray gun come from? Why did the jewels vanish? All that kind of stuff, intentionally losing me so that they could later catch me up. I thought that was a good story tool.
Here's a good standout panel, I thought, of Snapper. I mean, so you can tell that he spent time on that,
And I was going to say that one of the things I liked most about this issue was the face work. There's a lot of great faces. This bit here when Pete Ricketts is talking to all the gangsters, there's a lot of great facial expressions going on here. It looks like Bob Hoskins talking to one of the Dick Tracy villains, but no, I love the facial expressions. It was really strong. And that was my favorite part is all the good reactions that you got, all the good facial expressions. What's up? Adam's in the chat. What's going on? Daymers? And we got Barnabas in the chat. He says, why did the villains always wear purple and green? It's fair. It's a very common trope, right? Very common trope for sure. Did you have any favorite panels, Ryan? Something that was really just like, that's the one.
So my favorite panel, I knew what page it was going to come off of for sure. And then which panel within the page was kind of different. But just in these last few moments, I've decided this definitely is my favorite panel in there just because of the movement of the characters.
Sure.
I just think that's nice. It almost looks like they're dancing. I just think that's funny.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. And it's funny that you picked an action one and I picked an action one in the other book, and you picked a lineup and I'm picking a lineup in this one. I like this lineup, right?
That is really good too. Yeah.
All the faces facing one way, all the shocked criminals, befuddled and impressed by what the technology can do. Great face work. It just really is solid and entertaining, and I like seeing the reactions on the characters' faces. And of course, that's the entertaining moment when Pete Ricketts gets caught unawares that none of them rescued items. It's very exciting to see him just eyes, agog. It's very entertaining to me. We got the comic chef in the chat. What is going on, sir? Welcome in. Flash and Green Lantern were Indian wrestling. That's what they were. Matt is in the chat. What's going on, Mr. Gretzky? I'm going to be on a stream with him Saturday night at 10 Eastern talking about movies. I'm very excited and looking forward to that because it's been a long week and that's going to be a long day for me, but that's how I want to finish it out, is talking movies with Mr. Gretzky. Yeah. Okay, then. If we are both happy with the artwork that we got, how do you pick a favorite? What's your favorite? Where is your vote landing?
Justice League again. It's just the overall picture is just, it's all there. The package is coming together on that book. So that's where it's going.
I think I'm leaning Avengers on this particular category. I really just love what he was doing with these costumes. I think this felt like Kirby finally knowing what these are going to look like long term. So he's getting Iron Man. He's getting Giant Man. Looks fantastic. His proportional size when he's big it really works, the differences. So for me, this is an area where I'm giving Kirby a little point, a little encouragement, because he's doing things right. Christina is dropping links. I appreciate you, Christina.
you.
So if you all want to follow Ryan, and why don't you? Because we're going to be on his channel when JLA versus Avengers comes back next month for another episode. Make sure you've clicked the link, hit the subscribe. So yeah, I'll give my point to Kirby. That means the chat, let us know art-wise who blew you away more, who wins your art interior vote.
Yeah,
so let us
know.
Barnabas is asking, have you seen Dark Shadows? I've never seen the Johnny Depp film. I've seen some of the episodes of the original show, the one that your icon here is based upon. But I have not seen the film. Let me know if that film's any good. We're counting down our 50 all-time favorite movies. We did 50 to 41, and now we're going to do 40 to 39 on Saturday night. So be there for that. Just good fun movie talk. That's what it's going to be.
Sure.
Okay, that leaves us with our final category, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We're on MVP. This is the person in each of these books who did the best job as a superhero, or maybe a villain. The character who was the champion of that book this month. So let's start with JLA, because for me, that was the most obvious one. And I'm going with Snapper. And I don't think there's a way to pick anybody else. I don't think there's an option. I would be curious to hear your thoughts. Everybody loses. All the heroes fail. All of them screw up. None of them can even beat each other. And if it weren't for Snapper, they would still be fighting over their radium somewhere in some corner. Snapper saves all of them. He figures out all the problems. He rescues all of them. And he does it all with his own ingenuity. I don't know how you pick anybody else, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
When I hear something I like, I snap. And I liked what you said, Daddy-O. So I'm picking Snapper for all the reasons you said, because there was nobody else. There honestly was no other choice.
Yeah, even more obvious than the first issue when I tried to pick Snapper for that MVP. This is like so clearly Snapper to the rescue. Not that he is the main character, but more that he does all the work.
Yeah, which he didn't actually end up winning on that first as the overall MVP. He lost to Aquaman.
He's
not going to lose to Aquaman. Was our first ever MVP. What does that say?
Well, we're in agreement that it's Snapper over Snapper on the JLA book. Who was your pick? Because this one is really debatable, and I went around and around a few different times before I settled on my choice for the MVP for the Avengers book.
I'll give you my runner-up first, and then I'll tell you who won it, okay?
Okay.
The runner-up was going to be Ant-Man. And you might say, that's an interesting pick. But Hank is the one who designed that weapon that was back in the mansion that the Wasp won again. And he knew that, that was there. And so he was my runner-up. But the one that I say is the MVP for the Avengers story is Rick and the Teen Brigade.
They were
not
on
just
my
Rick,
list,
but sure. Rick and the Teen Brigade.
Yeah, well, they do it as a group, right? They really do. They
Yeah.
trick Kang. They get inside. They mess up the whole system. They free the Avengers. Yeah, good pick. That's a good pick, and I definitely considered him, but in the end, I went with Janet. I went with the Wasp.
Really?
Here's my rationale. Number one, she's the only one of these guys that doesn't get caught. The whole Avengers team gets caught, and Janet somehow escapes capture. She's also the one who figures out the solution. We need this ray. You guys distract Kang. Let me go get the ray. She's also the only one to realize at the very beginning, his suit is giving him a power. I need to disable the suit. And she tries to break into the suit. Nobody else is even trying this. Yeah. Everybody's just trying to hit him. And she's like, no, I'm going to zip in. I'm going to try to break the suit. He just happens to catch her, right? So she figures out the suit's the thing that's got to be destroyed. She goes and brings the weapon back. She doesn't get captured. So for me, that was she was neck and neck with everybody else, but those were the deciding factors. Plus, I feel like any day when Stan Lee throws a woman a bone in the Silver Age, I gotta respect it. So I'm going with Janet.
Okay, so you know how sometimes at this point, which this is actually my favorite part of.
I know you love
what we do. I like this.
It gives me the most stress every time.
Yes. Sometimes when we disagree, we have to fight our case.
Of course.
to try to come up, to win the other side over to us. You have proven your case. I bow down. But when you said, that she figured out it was the costume, she didn't get caught. Though the problem is she's hardly in the story at all, so it's hard to remember that stuff. So good to you for picking up on that. I easily will say Wasp for MVP for the Marvel side. I'm really good with that. So now the question is Snapper or Wasp?
I know. Barnabas is saying, I always liked Snapper. Too bad he was eventually forced to leave the Justice League. I want to know about the scandal that sent Snapper away. That sounds exciting.
Oh, I've got those issues.
Snapper, the man who turned on the JLA.
Yes, he did. He did.
Goodness.
He turned on their asses.
Some love for Kirby in the chat. Appreciate you guys throwing out your thoughts, throwing out your comments. So now we've got Snapper as an MVP versus Janet as an MVP. And I feel it's pretty clear who is the more significant MVP because we were pretty blatant about it. It's hard to beat Snapper this month. I don't know your thoughts. If you're looking at these
I wasn't thinking of the Wasp until you said it in that light. And now that gives me that puts a whole new spice in the sauce. You're going
to stir the spaghetti sauce with
I don't know if I'm stirring the spaghetti sauce, but I'm stirring some sauce here.
That's a good point. I considered Iron Man a little bit. He does a lot of work considering all the literal and figurative weight on him in this issue. That's a good point. I think this was a better issue for Tony than some of the other ones, but he does feel like he plays in the back seat a lot all through the issue. So what are you thinking? What's going through your mind?
Snapper, they wouldn't have gotten out of that predicament. Well, same with the Wasp. They wouldn't have gotten out of that predicament with her either. So they're kind of even Steven there. It's pretty. I
love that you're flummoxed.
I don't know. You have to talk.
Well, so here's my thinking. The reason I feel like Snapper was my first choice, and I'm certainly able to be talked out of it, was just how he overshadows the entire book, right? Like you can't miss his actions in this book. It's like a giant spotlight is on it.
Yeah.
Versus Wasp, as much as she is a value and does so much important stuff in that issue, in typical Stan Lee fashion, she still has to kind of be this tiny little thing buzzing around. You could talk me out of it. Obviously, she's ingenious enough to be able to use Ant-Man's ants to help her fly this thing all the way across the city. I feel like this is clearly her most prominent issue that we've had, bar none. And in that way, this is about probably as big a moment as she'll ever get. So in that way, you could argue. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You could argue in that sense that this is as big a spotlight as Stan and Jack were ever willing to shine on her. So it glows.
How sad is that?
Even on the cover, this is as big as, she's flying in front of everybody. Yeah, flying up to the front of the battle. Versus most of the covers, you're like, where's Waldo? I can't find where's Waldo. All right. Did that help solidify your thinking, or just muddle the waters a little bit more? Muddy the waters?
No, because you made such great points about the Wasp that it just put everything in a different spotlight. It's like watching a movie you've seen before for the first time because it's in letterbox.
Yeah, you didn't realize all the things happening at the edges.
Yeah,
of the story,
exactly. Right? Exactly.
Bobby says Kang is the MVP. He's voting Kang.
Did he say Kang or Tang? I thought maybe he just likes Tang to drink in the morning. So
he's an astronaut fan.
Yeah.
NASA fan. I like that Ryan is totally flummoxed by this part of the show. I'm fine giving it to Janet and then giving her a chance to at least be the intro to the next episode.
Yeah, and
you're like, I just don't.
But Snapper, it's not that. It's not even anti-Snapper. Snapper was very significant in the story.
Absolutely.
He kept literally these mobsters away from gaining anything.
Right.
And in spite of, 6 of their biggest obstacles being the heroes that are possessed. And that's pretty
impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It is. I think it's Snapper.
All right. So we've selected Snapper as this month's MVP, the issue
Sorry,
8
Wasp.
MVP. Janet, damn it, Janet, you came so close. But we still love you.
Yeah.
That means you in the chat, you can let us know your thoughts. That means overall, just in our scorings, it seems like the JLA issue is the big winner. But let's finish strong with our final thoughts here. Which book for you, Ryan, was your favorite?
Yeah, and you guys can start dropping your votes for favorite book right now.
Yeah,
for me,
add that.
Yeah.
Whoops,
Chet's here. The man.
Uh-oh. Jedi Knight made it. Here we go.
Yeah.
So there's the overall vote. We're asking you to vote. So I'm going to write that word in the chat. Drop your vote. Which issue as a whole is your choice as the better book? Not investment wise, not spec, none of that stuff, but which is the more entertaining book? You guys decide in the chat which book wins the night. What are your thoughts?
I did. I went.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear from the jump that's how you were feeling, because almost every category you were feeling pretty strongly. That's where it felt for you.
Yeah, it's JLA for me.
And I have a hard time disagreeing. I personally tend to weight story the highest in the four categories that we discuss. Mm-hmm. And if a book crushes the story but falls apart in the cover or falls apart in the MVP, it doesn't harm the overall voting for me, versus a book that fumbles the story is going to struggle in the final stretch, in my estimation. So the clear winner for me as well is the JLA. I think the book just had the more entertaining read. The story was structured better. The story played out better. I may have liked the art a little better, and I may have been feeling like they were pretty close on MVP for me, but story, this is where it came through the strongest, and it just was a more entertaining read in that way.
Yeah.
So that's where we're voting. Looks like so far you're the only one voting in the chat. There's 10 of you guys. Drop your JLAs or drop your Avengers and see who wins, who is the better book. Stop bragging. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Mine is probably a 1.
Yours is a 2.9.
But I got it. That's all that matters. Right. I got a copy.
Either yours is a 2.9 or a 0.9.
I agree with this as well. Padre is JLA got JLA, so JLA got a first vote. There's no Avengers votes yet.
Avengers just got some votes.
We're not voting for Harbinger. Get out of here. Avengers, Marvel owns the Silver Age. There it is. AG's in the chat. Nice to see you, AG.
Yeah.
Welcome by.
But it's not necessarily who owns the Silver Age who had the better book.
Right. We're talking this issue, head to head, this issue, who is the champ. So far, we've got 3 Avengers votes and 1 JLA vote. Because I can't count the votes at the beginning. I know a couple people voted right at the jump, and I appreciate you guys all voting. It's got to be after. What would Avengers do? Or do you mean Wonder Woman? Maybe.
Did someone say Wonder Woman?
So far, it's pretty clearly in the Avengers camp as far as our chat is concerned, which would tie things up 4-4 after 8 issues, make it exciting to continue on. Ryan, I know you said or was it off air that you told us that you have a big, no, you said it on the show. You've got a big video coming up next week with your comic book editions. You also have
Justice League themed.
And you also had your additions for this week. It's already on your channel. Anything coming up the next few days you want to make sure people know about?
Yeah. So this week I dropped an A-Team back issue of the week YouTube short, because the pilot episode of the A-Team aired on this date in 1983. So I did their first comic book appearance as the back issue of the week. Varangian Vigilante from Austria sent me an AOK that I unboxed in my comic book editions. That's already up on my channel.
Yes, it is.
Then we'll have Fanboys Live and the Retro Review this upcoming Sunday night. And then next week, another back issue of the week. It will be a Marvel character. And we'll have for comic book editions at Justice League Hall, where I get to... I'm excited to give you the number of where I'm at with how many books I have left that I need in my Justice League collection. Because a year ago it was at 36. Let's just say it's a far cry from 36 now. So
you've definitely kicked it into gear as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I pitied a fool.
We got another Avengers vote, which I think puts it to 4-1. But then we got another Justice League vote from brother John, who's in the chat. Thank you for coming by. He's like, I don't care what the criteria is. It's always Justice League. So there you go. So it's 2-4. I think we're gonna probably call it here. I don't think I see anybody else voting at this point.
Sounds good.
I dropped a few videos this week, so there's definitely some things going on. My favorite independent comics is what I dropped today. There are 10 plus a couple of honorable mentions that are books from 2024 you may have missed. Lots of quality comics came out this last year, and I definitely want people to be checking some of them out. Specifically, oh, that was very heavy.
Hey,
I bought 3 copies of Traveling to Mars, which dropped its trade paperback this week. At least it came to my LCS this week. It's from Ablaze Comics. I'm spoiling it right now for you. This was my favorite book of 2024. This book is phenomenal. Mark Russell wrote the daylights out of this. He's a really talented writer. He's been doing a lot of stuff for Marvel and DC, but I love his indies a ton. So I'm going to be giving away some of these in the future. So you might get a copy of Traveling to Mars from me if you want. But if not, if you want to support indie comics, that's a book I recommend picking up. I've got several of those. I'm also giving away another one of the books from 2024 that I shouted out. That's Beneath the Trees Where No One Sees. If you are a channel member, you have one more week to become one. And then I will give away that trade paperback, a Storm variant, and several other comics. You could be the person to win. Just hit that join button and become a channel member, and you'll have a shot to win. So that comic book, signed by the creator, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, that will be given away by me a week from Saturday on my Saturday morning show. So that is the video that is currently running on my channel, and you can check out all those kinds of things. This Saturday morning, I am off. I'm not doing my morning show because my school is doing an event Saturday morning, so I'm doing that. And then Saturday night, however, I will be on with Mr. Gretzky 6699 and Carlito Classico, and we'll be continuing our discussion around our favorite movies of all time, those movies we watch again and again that mean a ton to us for whatever reason. So it'll be a fun late night movie chat. This is 10 Eastern on Saturday night. So it should be a lot of fun. Stay up late, have a little something to drink, get some popcorn, and hang out with us. We would love to have you there. Brother John says, I give my proxy votes for Jigger Jin and Legion of Comics to vote Justice League as well. And that would just barely tie things. Isn't that shocking? Thank you so much, Damien. I appreciate you, sir. I try to do a lot of fun things and hang out with a lot of fun people. It's always an enjoyable time on the YouTubes. Brother John says he read Traveling to Mars. It's fantastic. It is really worth the time. I bought 3 of them today. I went into my LCS. I saw that they had them, and I bought all the copies they had, knowing that I would either keep one forever, but give away several to people I want to make sure read it. So that's my plan. I may end up buying more. It may be one of those books that I want to make sure more people read, because Ablaze doesn't get the same kind of love that Image or Marvel or DC gets. So this is a book that I think is worth the time. And it's an Eisner winner for Best Writer. So I'm very happy that it got, and Best New Series. So I'm happy that that he's getting some recognition. Mark Russell and Roberto Meli are getting some recognition.
So I want to say, with our JLA versus Avengers next month, issue 9, and you guys feel free to read along. We don't expect you to own these copies because, you know, these are expensive books, but there are, if you have the apps, both issues are in the apps. And there might, if you did a Google search and said read, you might find a result. Just saying, I'm not encouraging that, but I'm just saying that it could happen. But next month, on the Justice League side, we have the first ever origin of the Justice League revealed, which predates Brave and the Bold 28, first appearance. And then on the Avengers side, a character called Wonder Man? That sounds
Very
so
thrilling.
close to what I'm used to. So close.
I'm sure there will be some discussion about licensing theft.
Yeah. So
going on over there.
we'll have an interesting thing with Wonder Man and the JLA origin next month.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's somewhere in mid-February over on the Magic Lasso YouTube channel. We'll be talking about issue number 9 and seeing who breaks this tie. Now we're tied again for Avengers and Justice League. Who will be able to break the tie? So be there on Ryan's channel next month.
We'll have a fun time. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, thanks everybody for tonight. I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out, and we will see you guys all later.
Bye.